Because face it, people want to feel comfortable with you, and they want to buy or work with people that they trust, respect, and with someone they think, trust, and respect them. So, to recap, for eye gestures, it's positive. The positive thing is side to side, then to the nose, and the negative eye gesture is wandering eye and side to side to the forehead. Now, the second emotional gesture are facial gestures. If you recall what I said earlier, that in a research, facial gestures are 4 times more believable than verbal communication. Why? Because when we're talking to someone, we're looking at their face. You're looking at her eyes, her lips, her eyebrows. So when someone frowns or smiles or laughs, these signs are crystal clear indications of what they're feeling and thinking. So here's a list of positive and negative facial gestures. Positive is easy. It's upward turns in the corner of the mouth and relaxed lips. It means that those 2 gestures basically means that they're happy with what they're hearing, they're happy with you, and they're comfortable. The negative aspect is, anyone you see with a downward turn of their mouth or lips pressed together, you can tell that they're unhappy or they're bored or that they're angry. Now, the third emotional sign or body language gesture are arms and torso movements. Arms on the chest is probably one of the most well-known gestures. The meaning of some of the movements can have positive and negative meanings. For instance, like I just said earlier, arms on the chest can mean the following: that a person is putting an unconscious barrier. When you're talking to someone and you're kind of resistant to them, you immediately cross your arms. But this jaw gesture can also mean that a person is cold, or it can actually even have a positive meaning depending on the situation. If it's an amicable situation, a person who crosses their arms can just mean that they're kind of thinking about something. So, if you're introducing the business to somebody, you're talking to them about the business, and you see that their arms are crossed, don't fret. No need to worry, because it can also mean that, they're just considering it, right? So the meaning of the movement really depends on the situation, and perhaps a combination of reading the eye and facial gesture would be a better indicator that she is interested in the business. So to make it easier, here's a list of positive meanings, things that are positive, which means anytime I say positive or negative here, positive means that she's open. It's an open posture. She's open to you. She's open to the information. She's open to the opportunity. And negative just means really that she feels closed off. So for positive, for arms and torso movements, the positive gestures are when they're leaning forward, means that they're interested. Fingers that are interlocked and placed behind the head, and they're like in this very relaxed position. It means that they're just very open, and that's usually a sign more for men than women, but some women still do practice that type of behavioral gesture, especially when they're very comfortable in the situation. Another positive indicator is, mirroring means that she likes you and she wants to be friendly. The last one is, when someone is really still and you're talking to them, that is really one of the great signs, because research shows that it often means that she's very interested in what you're saying, and she's not thinking of anything else except about you and the words. So negative signs of arm and torso movements are shoulders that are hunched, meaning that, when you see someone like kind of sitting down and hunched, it means that they're not very interested. A rigid body posture usually means they're anxious or uptight. Crossed arms, again, can have that double meaning, and the negative meaning really is that, they're pretty much closed off or bored or angry. Tapping fingers mean that they're agitated, anxious, or bored. Fidgeting just means that they're outright bored and or that they probably have something to say. Now, fourth, is leg activity. This is something that's not often talked about, but it's still a very important indicator of someone's interest. Noticing a person's legs is not always easy, especially when you're sitting down at a table, but it's also worth mentioning. It's important to observe leg activity with arm position. So kind of like, when you're talking to somebody or you're assessing the crowd in the room, observe the arm and leg movements of the people. And I'll bust that old myth right now about crossed legs. It's okay if someone you're talking to has her legs crossed. What's bad is if one of the legs is bouncing. So now, the positive and negative aspects of leg activity. The one positive aspect is even, even with legs crossed, if it's still and relaxed, it means that they're open and interested. A negative is definitely if the one leg is bouncing, it just means that they want to get out of there. And fidgety leg movements mean the same thing, means they're bored and uneasy. So now, the negative aspects of the 4 body language movements that I talked about conclude to the fact that a person is closed off to what you're saying, right? So some research suggests that one way to turn this negative into a positive is to conduct mirroring, which basically means that you echo what a person is doing. And, we kind of mentioned that in one of the, I think, positive signs earlier in the discussion. For instance, if the person you're talking to has her hands crossed, you do the same. Mirroring essentially makes the person more comfortable because the technique is designed to create kind of like a kinship or an affinity between you and the other person. Now, if you sense negative vibrations from the person, just take a step back. Reassess the situation and your communication strategy because, just because they're no now doesn't mean they're not going to be no a little bit later on once you kind of continue with what you need to say. Now, once you're able to turn that negative into a positive, this is when you go for the close. Continue to communicate positive energies with your body language, and you'll soon realize that closing the sale has become easier and will happen to you more often because you have developed your skills in reading what's on her mind through her emotional signs. Now, in conclusion of this discussion, I'd like to talk about body language and you. Having covered the basic signs of what to look for, it is also important that you develop an awareness about yourself. Why? Because in the business of sales, presentation, appearance, and performance is very important. It is also key for you to be able to modify your behavior to adapt to the situation. Also, don't forget the importance of verbal communication. If you say the right words, then your actions must echo that as well. So you might be thinking that how can I detect or observe my own body language? One thing to do is to be more self-aware. Make a list of the things that make you uncomfortable. Then think of how you could adapt your behavior so that you continue to show positive signs of body language, even when confronted with those things that make you uncomfortable. Finally, understanding the signs of behavior can help you assess someone's interest in the business. Is she open or is she closed? If she's closed, what can you do in your behavior to change the situation or to make your position more persuasive? After all, sales is about communicating the products and the opportunity. And if you can better communicate through verbal and nonverbal communication, then you increase your chances of reaching your goals, which is to close. When you're not becoming a mind reader, what you are is becoming a better assessor of people. Having this characteristic will help you gauge your communication, whether you're in a one-on-one presentation or in front of the group. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Corey. My goodness, what great information tonight. That was outstanding. It's really true. Sometimes we're not aware of these and we're just ignoring them because we're so busy talking. We don't see what's happening to the person we're talking to. And this kind of makes you maybe open your eyes and look at it a little bit differently and think